Hi, Peter. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Grace. What's going on?
Not much. I'm ready to jump into episode 21 of Accelerated Velocity.
All right, let's do
Awesome.
it.
Let's do it. So, we're going to be looking at a little bit of a different topic today. Another shift that, Peter and we've talked a lot about this shift that AI seems to be driving. And that is maybe on the more negative side of some of the results of AI tools, a growing culture of just not connecting as much as we should be with other human beings. And as a result of that, maybe not communicating as effectively in professional environments, in personal environments. And we'll dig into that a little bit more, what we mean, and look at some examples. But we just wanted to kind of have a conversation about that today and also think about how you can come back to those points of human connection and improve communications and connection with coworkers and colleagues right now. So yeah, we'll just kind of dive into that today.
Yeah, so I think a great place to start is a non-business environment. And you know that my daughter is a high school student, and she was actually telling us just a couple days ago that her classmates are not asking teachers questions. They're asking ChatGPT. And that really is a perfect example. And it obviously spills over to business, which is what this conversation is about. But just the repercussions of that can really be significant because the teacher is going to have a less idea, a more fuzzy idea of what the student's about, what their issues are. And that I can't see it doing anything but impacting education in a negative way. And it extends to our business and everybody else's business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say I feel like I personally haven't experienced that in the work environment at Inbound AV because I think we're a pretty communicative, connected team. But I do think that this is something a lot of people are feeling. And maybe you, if you're listening, have experienced some form of this in a professional setting. And I also want to say that feeling of being like, oh my God, I have so much work to do and I'm on a time crunch. I'm going to figure out how to do this on my own without reaching out for additional support or resources. That's natural. I don't think there's any reason to feel bad about that. But I think it's a good reminder. Your example is a good reminder, Peter, of maybe pushing through that discomfort sometimes and actually reaching out for help and support, especially when you're on a team working on a project, because normally that's when you get the best results. And AI can enhance that, but it's not going to solve it.
Yeah, and really, in a way, it's not surprising because of human nature, because it's a risk to say that you need help to a human being. There's no risk involved in asking ChatGPT for help. And consequently, it just really makes it kind of an easy thing to understand why it's happening. But, along with why it's happening, more important is what are the results and what are the potential positive results? What are the potential negative results? I'll start with a positive result, and that is that this new technology, and it's called in-person events, is booming. People are wanting to attend more in-person events where they're actually going to talk to other human beings. And so I find that, first of all, just fascinating. We learn over and over again with these innovations, also things that we as humans, even though they might have been innovated out of that, but we still want to do it. And it's a positive to us. And so we start doing it again.
Yeah, and I do think that that is just a testament to, and even if you can't necessarily meet up with people in person all the time, the fact that we're making this push to connect in that way is a testament to the fact that there's something that you just can't get out of troubleshooting with ChatGPT or any other Gen AI model that you can get with coming back to people in your industry that you share experience with, and there's real value in that.
I agree. And I think one theme that we've touched on in a number of different ways, which is relevant to this, is just the idea that strategy, human artistic talent and creative talent and so forth, is something that's becoming more valuable rather than less valuable in this new world we're in.
Absolutely. And so we've kind of talked about, as an individual, what you can do. Go back to those in-person events. If that doesn't work, make yourself known in other ways by connecting with other people virtually. But also, I think there are ways that organizations internally can kind of come back to these values. I think one thing is whether you're a remote or an in-person team, implementing team exploration sessions where people are getting together, even maybe exploring AI while connecting can be a way to just get everybody together and sharing their ideas and their experiences. And you can apply this to other topics as well. Apply this to various aspects of organizational expansion or just implementing sessions for people to kind of explore and talk through challenges that are going on with projects.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think, one of the things we talked about at first with this whole dynamic about the value of being human is when Facebook announced that, like, hey, we can create the perfect ad for you through AI, which I don't think is very true at the moment, but for argument's sake, let's say it is true. And just the fact that if that's the case and everybody can put together a perfect ad, then what's the value of that? It's just as if everybody can't put together a perfect ad because it's kind of this level playing field. And so consequently, the value of being able to actually conceptualize something original is increased.
Yeah, and I'll give another example of that too. It's really easy, just for example, to set up a workflow where you have news notifications sent to you on Slack or whatever other messaging platform you're using. And you can use AI to filter that, to create news filters for alerts that might interest you or be relevant to what you're working on. And that's valuable. That saves us time. That makes sure that we're getting information that we need. But at the same time, we at Inbound AV have a Slack channel where the entire team shares articles and news related to our industry that is interesting various team members. And I still find value in that, even though I could set up an AI filter to do a quote unquote similar thing. Because I also want to know what's interesting to my team members, what's interesting to the people that I'm working on projects with, because that's actually what's fueling the work that we're doing.
One thing that's a little bit tangential to this, but I think is worth bringing up, is that I was reading that the return to work, you have to be full-time in the office movement that's been happening over the last months and probably a year or so is failing miserably. People just aren't doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another thing that maybe has different aspects. I mean, on the one hand, being able to work from home is an amazing thing. And it really can increase your quality of life because you're not commuting for 2 hours a day. On the other hand, it has the same potential negative impact of what we've just been discussing. It's like you can actually live in your bedroom with a laptop and never come out except to go to the hot plate, in your bathroom or something. You get the point.
Yeah, I think that, it's interesting too, because like we at Inbound AV, we're 100% remote, and there are many benefits of that. But I think what I hear you speaking to also is like, along with this growing culture of disconnection, there's also like an undercurrent of avoidance that is very palpable in a lot of different situations. Just like the example that you led with about students not wanting to ask their teachers for guidance. I really think that this creates an opportunity for the individuals and leaders and businesses who are willing to face challenges head on with an honest approach. I think those are the groups and the people who are going to succeed in the end, especially right now, because that's what's going to help you stand out. And I think it's becoming an increasingly important asset. And another way I can see this working with client services, especially if you're, a larger organization handling a lot of different projects, is thinking about the value, the increased value right now of something like a monthly or a weekly newsletter for your clients that's written from that first person's perspective, that's talking about real things that are going on. And that's always a valuable thing to do. I think there's an opportunity for those sorts of gestures really standing out right now and setting you aside from the competition.
I agree. So how are we going to fix the world?
I wish I had an answer for that. I think there's some easy ways you can fix some of these smaller broken feedback loops that are going on. And hopefully that will create a more positive situation overall.
So I'm going to tell you how I think I could fix that to some extent for myself. And I'm curious to see if any of our listeners resonate with this. And that is that if I were to get a directive that, okay, stand up from your desk, go outside and walk around the block, that would improve my quality of life. I mean, it's so easy. I spend, maybe sometimes 5-6 hours a day on Zoom calls. And consequently, my view of the world is skewed. I mean, it's like there is a world beyond a Zoom screen. And so I wonder if we force ourselves, or even a company could do that in some way. Although you don't necessarily want to have your worker who's in Calgary, Canada, in the middle of the winter go out and take a walk when it's 20 below zero. But you get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I grew up, I was in the era where we used to get ads on TV to remind us to go play outside for 15 minutes. And there would be nothing on the station during that time. And that doesn't happen anymore because things are different. But I think that implementing versions of that within your team can be a really healthy way of improving everybody's quality of life. You know, we have a client that we've started working with fairly recently who have some really brilliant ideas on how they approach this very philosophy. And one of the things they've been doing is they're a remote team, and they've had everybody on their team get out and spend a few hours doing community service in their communities for organizations that are important to them, and then coming back together and kind of all sharing their experiences and what they learned from it. So I think those sort of initiatives are super positive overall, and there's a really beautiful ripple effect from that sort of approach to solving this disconnection that some of us might be experiencing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And this has been kind of a really nice detour from talking about AI all day.
Yeah, exactly. I think lesson 2 for me is there's always going to be challenges, but there really are a lot of things that we're feeling that might be a result of we have access to all these really incredible, really powerful tools, but it also takes a lot of thought and care to navigate them properly, right? And so hopefully this can be just one more reminder, one more gentle and positive reminder to think about how you want to implement that for yourself today.
Fair enough.
Cool. Thanks for your time today, Peter. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Grace.